Hello and welcome to my reflection on one of the Gospel readings set for this Sunday. And this is from Mark's Gospel, chapter 9, verses 2 to 9. Mark records this. After 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James and John with him and led them up a high mountain, where they were all alone. There he was transfigured before them. His clothes became dazzling white, whiter than anyone in the world could bleach them. And there appeared before them Elijah and Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say. They were so frightened. Then a cloud appeared and covered them, and a voice came from the cloud, "This is my son who I love. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they could no longer see anyone with them except Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus gave them orders not to tell anyone what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. In this recollection by Mark, Jesus is transformed and is seen talking with Elijah and Moses on a mountaintop, a place nearer to God. In this scene, Elijah represents the prophets while Moses represents the law, the two people who encompass everything that a Jew needed to know to worship God. In this vision, Jesus is seen to be greater than either the law or the prophets. So it's not surprising that in Matthew's Gospel, when Jesus was asked, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" he should reply that the first commandment was to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and the second to love your neighbour as yourself. Jesus then said that all the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. Jesus represents both the law and the prophets. By inviting Jesus into our lives, we can live by the law and act as a prophet. This would not have been a new statement for the Jews. Jeremiah had told them that God had said that the day was coming when a new covenant would come into being. God had said, Jeremiah 31 to 33 to 34, "This is the covenant I will make with the people of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God and they will be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbour or say to one another, 'Know the Lord,' because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more." The old covenant was broken by the people, but God would not allow his plan to be derailed, so he replaced it with a new covenant, the foundation of which would be Jesus. In the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 8, verses 5 to 7, the writer explains this more fully when he says, "They serve at a sanctuary that is a copy and shadow of what is in heaven. This is why Moses was warned when he was about to build the tabernacle. See to it that you make everything according to the pattern shown to you on the mountain." But in fact, the ministry Jesus has received is as superior to theirs as the covenant of which he is mediator is superior to the old one, since the new covenant is established on better promises. For if there had been nothing wrong with the first covenant, no place would have been sought for another. And it would involve not just the Jews, but even the Gentiles. Jesus would be its cornerstone, offering a new relationship with God for all people, a relationship that is unique for each and every one of us. It is special for us, and it comes through Jesus. Jesus said in John's Gospel, chapter 14, verse 6, "I am the way, the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Our route to salvation is through Jesus. He has clearly said there is no other way. On the day of judgment, I believe that God will look on all believers, then look at Jesus and say, "For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more." Jesus' transfiguration on the mountaintop showed him as he truly is, the Son of God. Why did he do that? Well, in a previous passage, Jesus had told the disciples that he would be killed by the authorities, a fact that they, especially Peter, struggled to understand. How could the Messiah be killed before the new kingdom had arrived? So undoubtedly, the purpose of the transfiguration of Jesus into at least a part of his heavenly glory was so that the inner circle of his disciples could gain a greater understanding of who he was. Jesus underwent a dramatic change in appearance in order that the disciples could behold him in his glory. The disciples, who had only known him in his human body, now had a greater realization of the deity of Jesus, though they could not fully comprehend it. That gave them the assurance they needed after hearing the shocking news of his coming death. As I have said, symbolically the appearance of Moses and Elijah represented the law and the prophets, but God's voice from heaven, "Listen to him," clearly showed that the law and the prophets must give way to Jesus. The one who is the new and living way is replacing the old. He is the fulfillment of the law and the countless prophecies in the Old Testament. Also, in his glorified form, they saw a preview of his coming glorification and enthronement as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. The disciples never forgot what happened that day on the mountain, and no doubt this was intended. John wrote in his Gospel, chapter 1, verse 14, "We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only." Peter also wrote about it in his letter to Peter, chapter 1, verses 16 and 18, where he said, "We did not follow cleverly invented stories when we told you about the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but we were eyewitnesses of his majesty. For he received honour and glory from God, the Father, when the voice came to him from the majestic glory, saying, 'This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased.' We ourselves heard this voice that came from heaven when we were there with him on the sacred mountain." Those who witnessed the transfiguration bore witness to it to the other disciples and to the countless millions down through the centuries, right down to us. Jesus is the Son of God, and we need to believe it because that is our route to salvation. But unlike Jesus' commandment to the disciples on that day, we do need to proclaim the good news. Thank you.